My name is Bay, and I'm a product manager at Predibase, the low-code declarative machine learning platform. Today, I'll be walking you through how to solve an end-to-end use case of customer sentiment analysis on Predibase. We'll cover a few key user journeys, including connecting data, training models, and then ultimately querying those models using a language we call PQL, which stands for Predictive Query Language. Predibase makes connecting data as simple as a few clicks. You can connect your structured data wherever it may live from sources like Snowflake and BigQuery, as well as unstructured data that may live in sources like Amazon S3 or GCS. Let's start by taking a look at the dataset we have today. Using PQL, we see we have a multimodal e-commerce dataset where each row is an individual review of an article of clothing. This dataset has a wide variety of feature types, including numerical, like the age of the reviewer, as well as categorical, like the division name and department name, and even unstructured text features, like the review title and text. The ML task we'll be looking at today is how we can predict the rating of this review, specifically measured on a 0 to 5 scale. This will ultimately allow organizations to proactively determine customer sentiment in order to improve the customer experience. Now that our data is connected, let's go ahead and start training a model. This is what we call a model repository, where teams can collaboratively train, version, and iterate on their models during the model building journey. So training our first model with Predibase is really simple. All I need to do is specify the connection, the dataset, and then select the features that I want to use. And so in this case, I want to use the e-commerce review prediction dataset, and I want to go ahead and predict that column of rating. I can then go ahead and specify the features I want to use and go ahead and hit train. Great. Now that our model has trained, we can see metrics and visualizations that can help us better understand model performance. These include the learning curves, which show metrics like loss, MSE, R-squared, and others. We can also see the underlying Ludwig configuration, which is a declarative representation of our entire model pipeline. Let's say I want to experiment and try out a new model. I can click New Model, and this time choose to include the unstructured text features, just in a few clicks. In this graph, we can see that Predibase takes my selected input features and passes them through an ML pipeline that includes pre-processing, encoding, and then ultimately combining them with the central model to output predictions on the other end. This compositional model architecture, known as encoder combiner decoder, or ECD, comes out of the box with defaults that we've seen work well, while also allowing for a high degree of flexibility. For example, not only can I choose which features I want to use, but I can also customize any part of this glass box architecture in just a few clicks. I can now click Train to kick off model training for this new version. We can see that our model that also included the unstructured text fields showed an improvement via a lower MSE over the previous one that only used structured data. If I want to use this new model for real-time predictions, I have the option to deploy to a high throughput, low latency hosted endpoint in just one click. Another way we can operationalize our model is through batch inference with PQL. With PQL, I can easily transform that SQL query from before into a predictive one with just one line, using the predict keyword and specifying the column I want to predict, in this case, rating. I now have access to the model's predictions right here appended as an additional column to the dataset. I can also extend this by adding the with explanation clause. What this will do is it will provide global feature explainability to show what are the key drivers that influence the model's predictions. In this case, we can see that those unstructured text fields, like review text and title, were very important. If I'm curious, I can also see these factors at an individual row level as well. The final example I'll show you is how to use the power of PQL to run hypothetical queries. Here, I can explore a specific hypothetical example and see what the model would have predicted in order to get a better sense for how the model behaves in a given scenario. I can see that I gave the model an input with a pretty negative text review, and that as I'd expect, the model outputted a prediction rating of around 0.74. Today we've seen an end-to-end demo of how easy it is to solve a customer sentiment analysis use case on Predibase. If this sounds interesting, feel free to reach out and request a demo to learn more.